There's no denying that 2020 brought a huge level of awareness to online course creation, online content, and we see people consuming courses, content, videos, and podcasts like we've never seen before, which means you have a huge opportunity as a course creator to scale your business. But you also have a huge amount of competitors coming in, and today I'm talking to James Wedmore about the elements you need to take advantage of the shift that's happening right now. So keep on listening. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, and a guest I'm really happy to have here on the podcast for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's my business bestie.
Oh.
Number two, we're going to talk about something I think is really important, something that's not really talked about a lot inside the space. And I am a big believer that 2020 actually created a lot of opportunity. Like, it created a lot of turbulence, but it also created a massive opportunity for a lot of online course creators. And my guest today, James Wedmore, and I are going to dive into what that is and basically how to correct your business so that you're in alignment of where the future of courses and online business is going. So James, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. What a treat too. I mean, this is the view, everything.
We're in Sedona. So for those of you who are watching the video version on YouTube, you get to see the amazing views, but yeah, it's pretty spectacular for sure. And we're only like a couple of minutes from your house.
That's right.
So you get this view
I'm right down
day.
the street. Yeah.
Every day.
Every day.
So this is like normal for you.
This is every day for me. Yeah. Can't complain.
You lucky dog. Well, for those of you or for those of the listeners that don't know who you are, can you just do a quick little introduction, what it is you do, who you are, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I sold my first digital product in April 18th, 2008. It was a online course on how to bartend. And when that first sale came in San Antonio, Texas, I was hooked.
You remember the location?
Absolutely. That first sale for everyone is like the greatest experience. That had me hooked because I had a thought enter my mind at that point.
Sorry. Keep going. This, by the way, we don't edit these episodes.
Oh, okay. So we just roll with the sneezes. Great.
Like, think Joe Rogan.
Couldn't you have just sneezed before the episode started? I don't understand this. Rude. Because a thought entered my mind when that first sale came in. That if one person was willing, I mean, this is a long time ago, right? 2008.
Yeah.
If one person halfway across the country was willing to take out a credit card, type those numbers in, trust in me, and pay that money, and it wasn't cheap, it was $200 plus shipping and handling. If one person could do it, then that means a second and a third. And that sent me on a journey of learning how to do this right. And 14, 15 years later, we help people do the same, whether they're teaching bartending or whatever their passion and expertise is. I run a podcast called the Mind Your Business Podcast, 460 episodes in. And what we really love to talk about is the inner game and performance piece of doing this, because so much of what you have to end up doing is unlearning everything you think you know, because we've been operating so much of our life from the consumer side of business that we tend to think like a consumer as we're making decisions in our business. And so there's so much undoing that has to do, right? I mean, we think so differently about business today in terms of like how we price, position, sell, market, and then all the feels come up. Right. The did you ever do like this? Did you get into like self-sabotage ever? And like,
yeah, of course, everyone does.
It's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
So I just know you're like always cool, calm, and collected. I mean, this guy was doing Speedos videos on YouTube. So, I don't think he was that concerned about what people thought of him.
Everyone's going to go to YouTube now and type in Brandon Lucero
Brandon naked? Question mark. It's out there, folks. And he hasn't gotten rid of it yet. No. So it's out there.
No.
So I don't know if that's a good description, but
yeah, I think so. And I think what I like about what you do is because you have a lot of the strategy, like the frameworks, and like here's the action framework strategy side of business. But there's also
so let me say this part then. What we help people do is build the business, and I think a very tricky thing, but I don't know if we're going to get into this today in this episode. a lot of the advice that people have been hearing, they think is business advice to build their business, and it's not business advice. It may be marketing advice, but people don't understand that there's a difference between marketing and business. And so a lot of the stuff is great marketing. There's a lot of great marketing advice, but you can have great marketing and a business that doesn't work. And actually that's something we're seeing a lot of with people that have been around a while, is their business is growing. They're making a lot of that noise and getting all that attention and stuff, but behind the scenes, things aren't working. And part of not working means they're not profitable.
Right.
That we did a whole series on this on the show because we started recognizing people would come to us for help. They're like, I'm like, wait, we thought you were crushing. They're like, yeah, but I'm not keeping any of it.
Right.
So there's a different skill involved with how to actually build a business.
Right.
And so you need both. And we love to help people with that, because what's the point of making more money? That's what people keep saying. They're in this kind of like story of money will solve all my problems, but they don't understand that it's like a bucket with a bunch of holes in it, right? Well, if I just fill the bucket, I'll be fine with more water. But if you have a bunch of holes in it, you got to keep filling it. So it's just this carrot you're always chasing.
Right.
So we help people plug the holes, like run a lean, mean business machine there, if you will.
Yeah. And what I love about that is I talk about this with a lot of our students. It's the masculine and feminine energy, where it's like the masculine is very much like, here, do this, do this, do this. And that's where most people are. Like, that's where most people focus. Most people are like, I just need the newest strategy. I need the newest ad formula. I need, give me the best framework to use. But if you're not filling and focusing on the invisible elements, none of that stuff's going to be effective, which is why we can give 100 people the same webinar strategy, formula, template.
Can I speak about this for a moment? Because there's a couple of things that come to mind. The first is there's a giant trap that people are in that I call the one best right only mindset, which is that people are saying, I have a problem. I don't have the results I want. I want to make more money. I want to have a business. I want the audience. I want the reach, all those things, whatever it is, right? And then they go into this question of what's the best right only one solution?
Right.
What's the best way to launch? What's the best type of product to create? What's the best platform to grow my audience? And so they're trapped in that belief of there's only one way and it's the one right only.
Right.
But where we operate from, which is boring and not sexy, except produces sexy results, are principles.
Right.
So when you're looking for the best right one only, it's constantly changing. And there really is, it's a question without an answer. There's no such thing as the best right one only of anything, right? People, when I started my podcast, people said, oh, is YouTube dead? YouTube has grown so much since I left YouTube. That's not why I left. I left because my message changed and a podcast felt better to share that message on than a 5-minute YouTube video, because I had longer conversations I wanted to have with people. But that's the mindset that people are in. So it's a question without an answer. It's dangerous. But when you're operating from principles, there are principles of business, there are principles of marketing, there's principles of sales, there's principles of influence. When you're operating from principles, the very definition of the word principle is unwavering truth. These are principles that have been around as long as business has been around. And when you operate from these, when you learn these, it really doesn't matter what changes in the external. It doesn't really matter what changes above the surface of the iceberg. Those principles will apply whether we're doing Instagram little TikTok reels or hologram videos. Because I've been saying this for years. One day we're going to be marketing on 3D holograms from our palm, like that whole help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only help. And it's going to, then an ad's going to just like, are you struggling to have success in your business? It's like, get back to R2. That's going to happen one day. It's going to be the same principles. The other piece is when I spoke at your mastermind, great event, by the way, I talked about the Robert Dilts logical levels pyramid. And when you go from the bottom level, and you guys can Google this so you can have a visual framework of this. When you go from the bottom up, you have environment. So people want to have a change in their environment, the bank account, the sales, the time, the lifestyle, all that stuff. And we go up to the next level up is behaviors. So that's where most people are focused on is what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I do? Just tell me what to do. And the higher we go up, which is what you were talking about, going from the masculine to the feminine, the more powerful the change is going to be. So the next rung up, we start talking about skills.
Right.
And what I've been trying to share, and hopefully successfully, is that there are specific skills that are absolutely required for the very nature of what we all do in our space. And the better you get at those skills, the better results you're going to produce. So when we get into something like a launch, which we will in a moment, a launch is a performance.
Right.
So let's use a metaphor of a musical instrument. And let's say you're going to do a performance of a violin recital or whatever.
Right.
If you haven't been practicing your violin, but someone just tells you what to do, okay, I know the notes to play, and then you go out there in front of all these people and you play that violin, you're probably going to get booed off the stage. They're going to throw some rotten fruit at you. You know, it's not going to go well because you didn't practice that skill. Your violin skill is like a 2 out of 10.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you know what to do. You're not good at doing it.
Right.
And there's a lot of skills that are required, and they're not intimidating. It's just like things that most of us didn't learn growing up. You didn't learn these in school. I didn't learn them in school, right? So when we learn these skills, you're going to get better at it. You and I have just continued to get better as we've worked together. We improve these skills. And then beyond that, we start getting into that inner world of our beliefs, our energy, the stories we tell ourselves.
And that's where the bigger transformation comes out. So
Absolutely.
I think to boil it down in simple terms, it would be like, where most people are is they look for better strategy, right? This webinar strategy didn't work, so I'm going to do a challenge. And that's a shift and a change you can make, but the transformation that can come from that is minimal when compared to an internal shift of a belief system or a limiting belief to an empowering belief or something. Is that like you'll see bigger transformations when you focus more on shifting the invisible versus the lower level, like what strategy do I need?
So it's almost like, I'm trying to think of a really good metaphor for this, but like, what is it? Hyundai and is it Toyota? They're the same car company. You know how like they have the
Lexus and Toyota
are the same car company, right? And then there's a few others like that.
Right.
Okay. So it's a different name. It's a different brand, and you see something different on the outside. Most people don't know it's the same exact car company.
Right.
This is as good of a metaphor as I could come up on the spot for how to look at the different types of launches. They're all the same. In other words, as soon as you pop open the hood, all great launches, and by great, we mean they were effective, they were valuable, they got you what you want, and they got your audience what they want.
Yep.
Everyone's happy. They're all the same under the freaking hood. It's the same thing, but a different veneer, if you will.
Yep.
A different name. And people are looking, and that it really is the like 3% difference.
Yep.
Like if I got the Toyota and you got the Lexus, right? Like we had the same, we'd race them, they'd probably perform exactly the same.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, but mine's cooler because it's Lexus, right? Whatever, right?
Right.
But it's the same thing. But all people look at, and it's that great metaphor of the iceberg, is they just see what's above the surface of the iceberg.
Yep.
And not understanding that everything below the iceberg is exactly the same. And so what I want to be able to talk about with you guys today is the universality, the principles behind these launches that are universal. It does not matter. So when you're going, what's the best, right, only one way to launch my program? Should I do a challenge? Should I do a live launch, a video series? Should I do an Instagram launch? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do a webinar? Should I do this type of challenge? I'm telling you that there's going to be pros and cons to each, but there is no right one if they're all following the same principles. But these are tricky questions because a lot of times we get into the self-sabotage and fear of launching, because that means you're going to have to put yourself out there. So we use questions like this as a trap to keep us in the comfort zone.
Right.
If I don't know which is the best right one to use, then I can't launch. Well, there you go. You just got your benefit for not launching, because it keeps us safe.
Let's talk about this launch element, because here's my belief, and here's kind of what I'm looking at is, we're coming off that year 2020 with COVID and all that stuff and everyone in lockdown. But lockdown, what it really did is brought such a massive amount of awareness to the general population of online content, online education. I mean, almost every single parent had to experience teaching their kids online, Zoom calls, recorded trainings.
How many friends that are outside this world reached out to you like, Brandon, have you heard of this thing called Zoom?
Yeah, and there's been a lot. Well, and Jacqueline's a perfect example. My wife, she didn't know what Zoom was. She's like, "What's a Zoom?" You're like, "No, it's Zoom. It's not a Zoom. What is Zoom?" And she's like a Zoom expert now, with our kids in school.
That's
and
great.
Even my son William, he's 7 years old, knows how to operate Zoom.
Wow.
So this idea of what online education is, online content, online communication has gone through the roof. And so I don't think a lot of course creators have realized that there's a massive amount of customers now, which is great. Like it's a huge opportunity that you have right now, and you probably won't ever get this opportunity again. Hopefully. I mean, because we had to go through, hell to get it.
Right.
But it's a massive opportunity. But what I think most, and there's a lot of people right now that are growing their businesses. Even if you're brand spanking new, you're probably like able to get like some sales and some traction because so many people are aware of what's going on. But what most people don't recognize is because of this opportunity, there's a massive amount of competitors, because at the same time people go like, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to work at corporate, or I don't have to go do this. I can actually teach yoga online and make 5,000, 10,000. It's like, yeah, you can. And that opportunity. So if you're sitting there right now and you're like trying to build a business, or you're struggling to build a business, just wait, because those competitors are coming. I don't know when it's going to be. It could be a month from now, 2 months, a year.
Oh yeah.
But if you're not focusing on setting up, like if you're not focusing on what James is talking about, those launch elements, you're going to be in for a world of hurt if you're not paying attention to that. So can we talk about that? Can we talk about those launch elements?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to talk about this, what you just brought up for a moment, and just expand on it, because it is so fascinating, and the Don talked about that this whole last year, 2020 and everything, which people have their labels on it. Oh, 2020, right?
Right.
He says how much it was a gift and an opportunity for people to wake up in different ways.
Right.
And that's what we noticed too, is it's not just people being forced to have to go online, but also people questioning their life in terms of what's important to them. And the amount of people that have said, I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to start this business, learn this skill, whatever. And why haven't I done it? And to reevaluate priorities, what a beautiful gift. And I do these polls within my communities, and I'll ask my members, how much have you grown like in the past year? And it's unbelievable how much growth came out of it. And so times are tough, and what the Don always says is pain is such a blessing, because pain is what forces us to pay attention. And so it has been so beautiful and so ripe with opportunity for us. And we just happen to be in this space.
Right.
Natalia is one of our students who had a yoga studio in LA, and she was forced to close it down.
Yeah.
And she just said, I'll just do something virtually for my clients online. She created something called Yogi Flight School, and it's just how to do handstands.
Right.
And she sold it to just her existing people in the class, and they loved it. And she goes, what if I could just do this to the rest of the world?
Right. And
she's generated like $200,000+ since then. It hasn't even been a year. It's like just hitting a year right now. And I just had to ask her this question. I was like, if this is too personal or whatever, like, let me know. But like, is this making more money than your yoga studio? She just started laughing.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
She's like, with the rent and the employees and the expenses and the liability and the insurance and all that stuff, like I was barely making any money at all.
Right.
And it was the filled classes. Then we have Hallie Bulkin, who had a physical business, and she shut it down because of COVID and went online.
Yeah.
This is record for us. Like as a student client, like we've never had anything. She did $1 million in 9 months. Her first 9 months going online.
What does she do?
What is her? I can't remember her niche.
Okay.
We'll come back to that.
I mean, I even seen it inside of our business, people joining our programs.
Yeah.
The percentage of people that are trying to transition from offline to online, just massive. Like over the last 12 months.
Yes. So this is happening, and this is great, but always everything is about understanding the landscape. There's always threats and opportunity costs. So yes, more people coming in. I don't look at it in terms of competition. I look at it in terms of we just need to be better at our skills always to continue be differentiating from what everyone else is doing.
Yep.
This is something that you and I have been doing a long time, and we continue learning and we continue getting better at it. And that's important, you know, and people that are just trying to do it themselves and figure it out really quick. Like now it's like you're trying to play, I almost want to say like in the NFL, and you're learning how to play football as you play with people in the NFL.
Right.
And you're expecting to win.
Right.
And like, that's going to be challenging. You're going to get tackled and hit pretty hard. So that's why I talk about skills and like getting better at things like messaging and irresistible offers. So
are those two of the elements?
Those are two of the elements. So let's talk about a launch. So people hear this word launch. I'm not talking about launching your business or launching your website. I'm talking about a launch around what it is that you're selling. And people hear this word and it's very loaded today. It means a lot of things to a lot of people. You hear things like launches are heavy, they're stressful. I hate launches. PTLD, that's real, post-traumatic launch disorder. I used
Have
to
you coined that already?
Yeah, I think we have the domain. No, we don't. I've experienced that.
Right.
Back in 2013, we launched a program called 48 Hour Film School, because I used to teach video, $297 program, and I did $256,000 in a week. Yeah. It was the most money like I'd ever created in that amount of time. And I was like so stoked. Very successful. Okay, this is huge. Very successful. And the thought of doing it again made me physically ill.
Yeah.
I was like, I never want to do this again.
Right.
So I want to start with this. I want to reframe and create a new definition of what launching is for people. Sure. And I also want to just put out there and say that once you understand this new definition of what a launch is, it's absolutely inevitable or essential. There's no way around it. If you're selling your coaching, your group coaching, your course, your membership, or any type of digital product. Yeah. If you're the type of person that's treating your digital education, information-based business like Amazon, that is why you're not making any money or leaving massives on the table. In other words, if you just have a website where it's like my products and we click on it, it's like a little thumbnail and an add to cart button. Yeah. That is exactly why your stuff ain't selling, because that's not how it works.
Well, we were talking before the show, for the interview, that I think part of the problem is that people look at launching as a means for the sale. Like that's the objective. I just need sales. When it really is more of like the outcome. It's like when you have a great launch, the outcome is the sales. But if you're focused and so driven on just sell, which is what I think you're talking about.
We will get to that. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a great distinction I like to look at between cause and effect. There's a very interesting words, cause and effect. What is the cause and what is the effect? And so, yes, one of the effects of a great launch or an effective launch is sales. There's other effects, beautiful benefits and effects of it. And so we need to be focusing on the cause. Right. And that cause causes the effect. Yeah. Right.
Love it. Yep.
And so we're going to look more at the cause, at the things that you should be focusing on that will give you the effects that you want. For example, let me give you another example. So we really anchor in this cause and effect metaphor. A lot of people say things like, I want to get more of a following. So they focus on more of a following. How do I get more people? How do I reach more people? But what causes more of a following is rarely what people focus on. I will tell you what causes more following. What causes more following is being a leader. Being a leader to your marketplace, embodying ways of beings and saying things and doing things that most people can't and won't. Right. Are things that cause following.
Well, and that's why inside of our program, when we talk about messaging, half the program is about that. It's like remembering who you are, how to be powerful, stop letting the external world control you. And some people get in there and they're like, I don't want to go. What is this? Give me the effing framework.
I love it. No. Tell me what to do. And they're going way back down on the logical levels again. Yep. And it's saying the being is only as good as the doing the doing. So if you are following the latest cool TikTok tactics, but you're not like you just look at it like I've proven this time after time with our audiences and our customers. And I say, think of the top 5 people that you follow on social media or your email, whatever, that you learn from. And I will say, why do you follow them? Yeah. Not a single person has ever said, because they use the latest cool tactic to get me hooked and trapped into their audience. No, they say, because this person demonstrates something that I admire: courage, honesty, authenticity, leadership, authority, expertise, inspiration. And so then there's the secret answer. That's the cause. That's what causes that effect of a following, but that's not what people focus on. Right. They focus on, but what do I need to do? Right. And they're constantly doing that. So everything, there is this accidental appropriation of what's causing what. And we want to take a deeper look into your launch, into what's causing that effect of the sales. You guys are listening because you want more sales.
Right.
And we've been able to have, our biggest launch has been $6 million. So we've been able to cause some big results.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that. First piece, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's dive in. What
First piece is I want to look at kind of like how I define a launch through the ingredients of it.
Okay.
Because a launch is this big, loaded, heavy word. A launch is simply an experience that provides value, ideally for free. So it's a free, valuable experience.
What do you mean by valuable?
I will break each one of these down more.
Okay.
That presents an offer and a deadline. An offer with a deadline. That's it.
Okay.
The ways in which we do that are innumerable. But a lot of times, some of those things are missing, aren't they? Sometimes people just have an offer. Sometimes people have an experience with an offer and they never offer a deadline.
Right.
Sometimes people have a really bad offer. Sometimes people have a free value experience that doesn't provide value at all. You know what I mean? So we tried to distill this to make it as simple as possible, and then we can unpack any of these. But we just did a $1.1 million launch that was emails to a sales page.
Yeah.
No Facebook ads, no affiliates. It was not something, we did it and pulled it off in 2 weeks.
Right.
It was like 2 weeks of planning and then like executed in a week. So technically you say 3 weeks. It's not one of these heavy, stressful, crazy kind of things, but it follows those 3 ingredients.
Right.
Okay. So, what do I mean by valuable?
Yep.
Well, those are really nebulous words that we do tend to make sure it's valuable.
I think, what I'm getting at is I think when we hear value, like add a ton of value, everyone always, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Everyone always talks and thinks of value as the steps, the information, the frameworks, which is still that lower level stuff.
Yes, it is.
But when my belief is, or what we focus on inside of our company, is that when you look at value, that is one way to add value. But the most powerful way to add value is to do what we talked about earlier, the belief shifting, the perspective shifting type of stuff. So when you say value inside a launch, I'm assuming you're doing both, right? Like every time you guys launch, there's going to be information, but there's also powerful transformations that are happening inside that launch as well, correct?
Yeah, I get into my little like soapbox ramp when I talk about like my experience in being educated publicly. And it's this whole idea that like, that's our experience of learning.
Yeah.
And we were told and taught what to think far more than we were taught how to think.
Right.
And so that becomes a lot of our frame of reference for providing value to others, is like we think back to like when a teacher said, here's all the steps, here's all the things, right? And what you and I both know, and we've had many discussions about this in the past, is there is such a higher place of value distribution when we go from filling someone's brain with more stuff. Like if I just took a book and like, like Neo in the Matrix, right? Like injected that book of content in your brain versus changing the way someone thinks about something.
Right.
Perspective, right? So how you see things determines what's possible.
This is why when we look at TED Talks that give us great information, great lessons, they don't get up there and just recite steps and steps and steps and steps. There's a transformation that usually gets you to shift your beliefs or perspective or see something differently and leaves you with a great lesson. It's educational content.
Absolutely.
But it's powerful.
It's powerful. And what did the late, great Wayne Dyer said is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's transformation.
Yeah.
So everything is the internal shift that happens first. And that's the opportunity that's available in all of our launches. The goal should be when people, before they even get to the end, they go, whoa, this is blowing my mind. I've never looked at it this way before.
Right.
I've never thought of it this way. And that shift in perspective and thinking creates possibility for them.
Yep.
We're going to go down some things, some little tangents for a moment. A lot of people, when they start these skills of messaging and writing copy, they survey their audience. And what is the number one thing in every niche? We just went to our audience and we were doing this really cool niche report, 200 different niches that we have inside Business by Design. How freaking cool is that? Like every niche imaginable. What was the one that we came up with that we found today? Parasite removal. Parasite cleansing. I mean, so many unique niches, right? Every single one of these 200 niches could survey and ask their audience, tell me like your problems and struggles. every single one of them, I guarantee, would say they are that one word, stuck, right? So that's what people start to do is they say, are you stuck? And this is like, I'm just going to give my messaging copy advice. Never, ever, ever, ever use that word, ever. Everyone's stuck. It's a universal, when someone's in a problem, 90% of people use, we're in the problem removal business. You don't have a customer base. You don't have a business if you don't have a problem you solve. But 90% of people use the word stuck to describe the certain situation that they're in.
And that's what we talk about inside messaging. The number one way you know in your messaging it's not going to work is if you can take that word or the sentence and put it on someone else's sales page and it still makes sense.
In a completely different audience.
Yeah.
Are you feeling stuck? Yes, of course they're feeling stuck. That's why they don't have the solution. That's why they're here. We know that. And so part of the reason people feel stuck is because they don't know what to do. They don't know if a solution is possible. They don't know if it's possible for them. And so when you are providing value, it's not because you've gotten them solved the problem necessarily. Like it's solved, it went away. Like if you help people with like weight loss and they got to the end of your webinar and they're like, it's all gone. I lost all the weight. That's not what we're trying to do. But at the end of it, they don't feel stuck about it anymore.
Right.
Then that's how we know we provided value. And what we mean by that is they go, I know it's possible. I know it's possible for me.
Yeah.
I can do it. And this person is the one who can help me.
Yeah.
They're not, when someone is now feels that, and that's not you telling them that, that's the natural conclusion they've gotten to, they're not stuck, and that will be valuable. That's a first vital component that people do not think is valuable, that you take for granted, that there is a threshold that someone has to pass where they have to say, oh, this is possible and I can do it.
Right.
But you're so busy saying, here, do these 75 things, and they're completely overwhelmed. That's called putting whipped cream on garbage. And the garbage being, but I can't do it. And so getting them locked into this, like, it is possible, it is doable, it is simple, it is easy, this person can help me and I can do it, is so far valuable than people take. Because Richard Bandler, founder of NLP, said, if you don't believe it's 100% possible, you won't do what it actually takes to make it happen. Right. 100% conviction and faith and belief in the outcome is a prerequisite for the outcome to happen. So
when it comes to value inside of a launch, instead of looking at value as I'm just going to give you more information, it's more of how do we get the person to realize, one, they can do it, and number two, you're the person to help them with that.
Right. So here's how that plays out. Let's say you and I are both teaching the same thing.
Yeah.
Like let's say you and I are both teaching like how to create an investment wealth portfolio, and we have experience. We're both good. And I get up there and I have this chalkboard, like the classic example that needs like a ladder to get up it. And I've written this whole formula out that's like bigger than an entire wall. Right. And I say, this is the process to investing and making wealth and making money. And it takes me 5 hours to explain it. See, a lot of people are trying to impress people by showing how complicated they can make things.
Well, they think that if I show how much I know, that's going to position me as the authority.
Right.
But what you're really doing is...
Or look how smart I am.
Yeah, and what you're really doing is getting someone to go like, I can't ever be at that level.
Exactly. So you just taught people something that had them say, this is too complicated. People do this all the time.
Yeah.
It's too overwhelming. I can't do it. And then you go up there and you say, there's a lot of advice out there that can be really complicated. It feels like you need a degree in rocket science in order to start investing.
Yeah.
But after 10 years of doing this myself and helping countless of other, whatever your avatar is, employees, families begin a wealth portfolio, we've narrowed it down into a simple 3-step process. This, and this. You can make it more complicated if you want, but it's these 3 things. Right. This is what Julie followed. 1, 2, 3, and look at the results she got. This is what John followed. 1, 2, 3. The simplicity just made me go, this is possible. Like, here's this other person. Oh, I spent 5 hours explaining something. You didn't provide value to me because you made it harder. You made it more complicated. And there is such a value in showing people it is possible. I can do it. And one of the ways we do that is through simplicity. I'm going to make it as simple. What am I doing with launch? You can make launches big, crazy. I'm literally showing it here on the episode, but it's 3 things. It's a free, valuable experience, presenting your offer, and having a deadline.
Okay. Can we talk about offer?
Yes.
Because I feel like we can talk about value and
yes,
and we do open up the question of like, well, James, how do we do that? But let's go through, and maybe we can talk about a little bit later, because there is an art form to adding value in that way. There's things to pay attention to, and there's elements that even go into how to add value. But when it comes to offer, I see all the time, most people look at an offer and they think that's the program. They're like, here's how many modules it has. Here's the name of the modules. Here's how many videos and PDFs and downloads. But that can't be the farthest direction from what an offer actually is. Because can you describe what an offer really is?
How long would you like me to talk about?
I think we got a couple hours, so
okay,
just quickly.
So
like
I teach. I think offer is one of the most important ingredients. You can't find a single person that you follow that has a successful and profitable business with a bad offer.
Yeah,
people do not give money to people with bad offers. Wow, that was a bad offer, but F it, here's my money.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen. So this is, and it's a skill. It's a skill to create great offers. Anytime I'm ever going to ask for money, 90% of my focus is how do I make this offer irresistible? If I'm going to make the offer, if I'm going to have the ask, I'm going to put my attention there and I'm going to make it the best possible. And there's a lot of mistakes people are making. Mistake number one, as you mentioned, is people make a vast error in thinking that your online course or digital product is your offer. If I say, hey, what's your offer? And you say, my online course, my 8-module online course, that is not an offer.
Well, that's the same way of trying to add value by giving out more steps.
Yeah.
And when you go to the offer, you're like, I'm just going to list out the videos. More information is not how we get people
And
to
not
buy.
only that, but this is a very beautiful truth to accept that for those that will swallow this pill, will have you be far more successful in selling your stuff. No one wants your digital product.
Yeah.
No one wants a digital product. I'm working on my camper van, right? So I always use that as a metaphor. So I'm buying a lot of stuff. I'm researching a lot of stuff. And, I just found a company that does floor heating. They can heat the floor.
Right.
I want that, right? So that's something I want very clearly. I want this tool that will heat the floor so that when it's cold in Sedona, my little tootsies stay warm.
Tootsies.
My little tootsies. Okay.
Is that your feet or your butt? You got two butts? Tootsies?
Tootsies are toes, Brandon.
Oh, okay.
Not butts. I would call that
Tootsies.
Tootsies.
Tootsies. Okay.
Your little tootsies.
I don't know.
He's learning things.
I'm learning.
He's learning. It's great. If that's all you took away from today. Okay. So I want that. There's no, and then if what I don't lay up at night thinking about is like, man, I really want to watch more videos of someone else talking to me.
Right.
We don't want that. There's no desire for that. It may be a means to an end, but the quicker we realize that everyone listening here, you could even say, but no, people want no, they don't. They don't.
So what do they want?
What they want, and that is the specific answer, is your responsibility to figure out. And so the way I help people figure that out, it's a real fun little exercise. You just imagine that your ideal customer had a genie in a lamp. And if they had one wish, what would that wish be? And they'll never say, I want more online courses. I want more group coaching programs.
Right.
What they'll wish for is that outcome to just appear in their life.
Right.
Things don't happen that way. We don't have genies. So the online course becomes the next best thing.
The course is the vehicle that gives them what they want.
Absolutely. So there's a big difference between an offer and a course, because what the offer begins to speak to are 7 ingredients. And that main ingredient is the possibility that becomes available through the course, the transformation, the outcome, the wish fulfilled. That's a big, big, big piece. And even that, we could do an entire episode on that first P, that first promise, because people go, these are the 2, we'll go fast over these. These are 2 mistakes people make with crafting the promise of the irresistible offer, which would cause it to not be irresistible. Broad and intangible. You want to write that down. Broad and intangible in their offers and in their copy. So the antidote to broad and intangible is tangible and specific.
What do you mean by intangible?
Sure. Intangibles are things not of the 3D, like overwhelmed and stuck.
Got it.
Right? This course helps you feel more confidence about yourself.
Gotcha. Yep.
That's very intangible. Tangible means I can hold it in my hand.
Right.
I'm going to help you get your first one-on-one coaching client in 7 days or less. That is very specific. That's very tangible. I ask people a very powerful question. How will you know? So they say, I want more confidence. I'd go 2 ways with that. You can start there, but we need to flush it out. Okay, if you want to sell confidence, What does your audience believe will be possible once they have confidence? Oh, they'll be able to sell more. How will they know when they've sold more? When they have $10,000, when they're making $10,000 a month off their one-on-one group coaching or one-on-one coaching. That's your promise, not more confidence, not get out of stuck, get unstuck, get out of overwhelm. You might, and listen, you might sell some of these.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make people's lives easier. I'm trying to make it easier to make your offer, not harder. And these things of making it tangible, specific, just makes it easier to reach more people because it's clear. People understand it. And then there's those, do you ever use these online software things that test the readability level?
No.
So we need to write everything that we write at a 4th grade level.
I already do that automatically. I don't have to try.
Right. Because he didn't graduate in 5th grade.
I didn't
So for the rest of us, you can go to, I don't know, it's called like readability tests.
Yeah.
And you just grab a paragraph of what you wrote or two, put it in there. And if it's anything over 4th grade, it will tell you, and you need to dumb it down.
Yeah.
Because it's not that people are dumb. It's that people are coming into your world for the first time. They don't understand everything you're saying.
So is it fair to say an offer is the perceived value from the audience?
No, the offer is the ask.
Okay.
The offer is the ask. It's the quid pro quo.
Yep.
It's the this for the that. And so I love to use this little example with people that really demonstrates this. So part of the ask is what it's going to do for them.
Right.
That's part of it. I'll give you a ton of videos of me talking for $1,000. Do you want that? No. No one wants that. Absolutely no one wants that. If that's all it was, absolutely not. So here's the great analogy I like to use. So I want you to imagine I'm talking to you as I'm talking to you.
Yep.
And I'm talking to our listeners here. And I have $10 in my pocket right now.
Yep.
So the first question I ask is, who wants $10? So some people listening would say, me, I want $10. Like, who doesn't want $10? Okay, then I say, well, I'll mail it to you once you mail me $10. I'll give you $10 if you'll give me $10.
Right.
Now, how many people want to do that? Chances are like maybe one. Maybe one person's like, oh, will you sign it?
Right.
Like it's worth, Brandon and I are going to sign it. So maybe it's worth a little bit more, but notice even that's a clue right there. So most people would not sit there and say, yes, I will get an envelope and a stamp and I will figure out your address and I will mail you $10 in the mail and wait 2 weeks for you to mail me $10.
Right.
That's what most people are trying to do. They are trying to convince people that I have something that's worth $10 and you should pay me $10 for it. But then if I said, okay, if you mail me $10, I will give you that $10 plus I'm going to do an all expense paid trip, fly you out or drive you out to Sedona, and we're going to spend 2 days crafting your irresistible offer and planning your next launch. 2 days one-on-one with me.
Right.
Do you think some people would say yes to that?
Of course, yeah.
Right. Why? Because we just increased the value, and the value is far more than the price. So people, when we look at offers, people are trying to justify the value or justify the price with value. And you've already failed. We just demonstrated it. I'm going to prove to you that this $10 program is worth $10. Failed.
Yeah.
We literally want to do a minimum. And I know value can become arbitrary when we put it into numbers, but here's how I do it. I say, take the price of your program. Let's say it's a $997, put a 0 on it. So now it's a $10,000 program.
Right.
Create a $10,000 program. Then take the 0 off and sell that.
Yeah.
So every single time when we look at any ask to our audience, I'm doing like a 20-point checklist or 20-point draft. 20 times I'm looking at it. Is this irresistible? And we just did an offer to our audience, and people that didn't take, it was a renewal offer. When you and I talked about this before the show, people were literally angry at other people who didn't renew.
Right.
They were like, what is the matter with other customers? Were like, what is the matter with you? Why didn't you take James up on this?
Yeah.
Like basically almost saying like, you're an idiot. And no judgment to, people are going to do it. Maybe they want to just go somewhere. That's totally fine. But that's the point is if I'm going to put an offer out there, I'm not going to justify the price. I'm going to justify 10 times the price.
Right.
I'm going to make this that's the word. Look at the word. irresistible. You cannot resist it.
Well, and when you combine it to what we were talking about earlier, is we talked about the value, and we focus on the value that gives someone the transformations. They make sure that, or they realize they can do it, and then they see the vehicle in which they can do it being presented to them. But then they all of a sudden, on top of that, see that, wow, I'm getting $10,000 worth of tangible value for the price of this. It's like a no brainer. So, could we argue that even the launch, the value that you're offering, your messaging inside the launch plays in, like they should play hand in hand, right? Because
not only
sets up the offer.
Not only do they play hand in hand, but I firmly believe that messaging is what births your offer.
Yeah.
The offer comes from the message. It
creates demand for it,
but that's not how people do it.
Right.
What do people do? They go, it's quality of your life determines the quality. Quality of questions is determined. Quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions that you ask yourself. And some people are asking some really bad, low quality questions. So most people are saying, what do I want to create? What do I want to be known for? What do I want to teach? We know that that's bad because no one cares what you want.
Right.
I mean, Brandon and I care. We care, but no one else cares. They're not going to buy. I mean, I'm watching, so I play a little ukulele on the side. Yep. So I love buying online courses.
Yeah.
Like I'm in a band.
Yeah.
Let's start a band. But I have this whole rant I love to go on every once in a while on my own show where like people complain about buying courses and stuff like, oh, I got to buy another course. I'm like, well, that's because people aren't very good at selling you their stuff. But I love learning. And I think that's what's attributed to a lot of my growth and success is like, I love learning. I love learning from others. And so I like to stretch myself. That's why I'm like building a camper van. I'm learning a musical instrument. I'm just constantly like want to improve myself.
Right.
And I watched this person sell their course on how to get started with the ukulele. And I'm reading it this morning, actually, as I'm drinking my coffee. And I noticed so much language. I'm like, oh, this is too bad. He's saying things like, I had a lot of fun creating this course for you guys, and it was such a blast to put it together. And I'm so excited to help you with this. I really want to help you learn blah, 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 blah. What's the problem with that?
Yeah, it's all about him and his experience of creating the course.
And it's all about a course. So he's just talking about the course itself and him, the two worst things that you could do. But instead, if he said, if you're like most people learning a new instrument, chances are you've been stumbling around for hours, sometimes days, fumbling from one YouTube video to the next, fast forwarding their blah, blah, blah nonsense as you try to figure out the best chords to learn in the best right way. And despite these hours of stumbling around in the dark, you're still nowhere closer to learning how to play. Right. But I want you to imagine for a moment that there was an easier way. A simple process that you could start learning and make learning fun so that within a matter of weeks, you could start to see the faces on your friends change as you blow them away with the new songs you've just learned. They'll start to think that you've been playing for years and they didn't even know. That's what I want to help you do inside, or I would get rid of want to. That's exactly what's going to happen to you, just like it's happened with so many others of our students inside the Ukulele Secrets Mastery Program Academy. That's my name, right? Now, most great ukulele teachers will charge anywhere from $100 to $200 a session, and you'll have to stop and drop everything you're doing to work with them once, twice a week for months. Yeah. And we've taken that same exact experience, but put it together in a digital format, which means you get to do it on your own terms. If you want to speed through the lessons in a single week, you can do that. If you're a little busier and want to take a little bit of time, you can do every other week and still get the same results. Plus, you're going to get access to at the fraction of the price. Instead of paying hundreds, if not thousands for a ukulele teacher, you're going to get the same process, the same content, and the same end result for just $29.95 a month. That's just $29.95 today to get access to the full library of the Ukulele Mastery Secrets Academy.
Well, when we look at like a real life example, we've all seen those infomercials. And we kind of make fun of them, but wait, there's more. Yeah. There's a reason why they're doing that. And there's a reason why they then tell you the price is down. It's an irresistible offer.
Yes, it is.
And most people kind of laugh at it or whatever. It's almost like a cliche nowadays, but that's what they're doing is a irresistible offer in a different physical item.
I mean, format. There's so much you can learn from it. I will say, going back to what you've been alluding to this whole time, when you watch an infomercial, it's very unlikely, and I'll tell you why, that you'll be left, if you don't buy the product, saying, wow, I got a lot of value from that.
What's that?
From the infomercial.
You're right.
There's no value in it for the watcher, right? You won't watch a 30-minute video on like P90X or something. You don't say like, that was so good, that changed my life.
Right.
No, you walk away saying like, I kind of wasted 30 minutes of my life and I don't want the product. I'm cool, right? But in a launch, every single person that is an ideal, they're in your market, one of the causes we need to focus on is that they walk away with tremendous value. That's one of our focuses. That's one of our goals, is that even if you never buy from us.
Well, you have to, because that's the difference between the products. Is physical
versus education based.
Exactly.
Absolutely. That goes back to what we were saying before, is about it. The launch itself will change the way they think about something, and that is valuable.
Right.
Right. And we can go into that if you want, but that everyone walks away with that value of, wow, that was amazing.
So why is the deadline so important to that then?
A deadline causes or creates an environment to make a decision. Most people are in the problems that they're in because they haven't actually made a decision to change. Yep. Decision, you look at the root word of that, the Latin root of side, homicide, suicide, what's another one? Germicide, right? It all means to kill off.
Right.
A decision is to kill off all other possibilities or routes. And so most people live in this like, I'm fine, someday, one day coma.
Yeah.
And I can embarrassingly admit, I love online shopping, Amazon and Etsy and eBay. And my wish lists and wait lists are like hundreds of products that I'll one day, someday buy that I've never purchased.
Right.
Chances are it's most of our listeners too, because no one gave me a reason to buy now. So a lot of your audience has already said, yes, I want this. Yes, I need this, but they're living in that someday, one day. And until you create an environment where you sit there and say, now you need to make a decision, chances are they never will.
Right. So
the deadline doesn't just cause a decision, but it causes something that they've chances are been putting off for a long time in their life. And in my launches, I am so upfront about that. I'm like, listen, this is about making a decision. I am completely detached from what that decision is, but I am very attached to the fact that you make a decision. Yeah. And today is the last day to making a decision. If it's a no, make that no powerfully. Make a not right now, not yet, but at least you're deciding and you know what you're making a decision. But most people are not making decisions. And listen, in our world as being business owners, we have to get really good, because it's a skill, at making decisions.
Yeah.
Most people aren't. Most people, think about it. Next week, next year. And interestingly enough, we have a fun stat for you. Last year's launch, 26% of our buyers had participated in 4 launches or less. Up to 4 launches of watching before committing. Yeah. So a lot of times, even when it's a no, it's a not yet.
Right.
But we have to create that environment to make a decision.
Right. That makes sense. Are there any like elements that you would put together in, or do's and don'ts when creating deadlines?
Yes.
I know for us sometimes, like when we did our first launch, the Video 4X, or our first like big video series launch last year, our cart open was like 12 days or 10 days or something like that. Yeah. And that was way too long of a deadline.
Yeah.
And it was difficult. It was hard to like maintain that. And we shortened it up to, I think it's a week now, but I'm even thinking like 4 days might be even better.
Yeah, that's what we do. Is an Instapot a pressure cooker? Okay, so it's like a pressure cooker. I don't cook. I don't have an Instapot, but everyone talks about them. So your cart open, your cart close is like a pressure cooker. The longer that period is, you have to keep that same pressure.
Yeah.
But expand it over time. And
right.
the longer you do that, that means the bigger container you need, the bigger Instapot you need. And that starts to get really challenging, really exhausting. It's like every day I have to think of something to say, and oh my goodness. And it's so hard. Right. So people think if I keep my doors open longer, I'll make more sales. That's a like silly belief people have. But no, it actually makes it harder, and it releases a lot of the pressure. So when we make a small container, we get to keep that pressure high, that energy high, and we don't need to like do a song and dance just to send an email. Oh, I'm going to talk about this today. Right. And then a lot of people in that period make a big mistake. This is a big no-no. Is they go back and teach more free content again.
Right.
That period is over. That was your free experience. As soon as the offer is made, now it's about content that's going to help people make that decision.
Yep.
How do I help you make a best informed decision? Questions and objections about the program itself. Not now I'm going to teach you something new, which risks putting people into overwhelm.
Yep.
And saying, oh, I don't need this anymore. So shorter is better. 4 to 7 days max is all you need.
Regardless of price point?
Regardless of price point.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because that's kind of one of the things we ran into in that. It was hard to keep the momentum because we didn't want to change the conversation. It's about right message to the right person at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, the message is about making that decision. But you can only get on someone's case about making a decision for so long.
Yeah.
And then they just, leave. But we all know how magical that final day is when they know
this is the day.
this is it.
This is it.
That's when all the decisions are made.
Poop or get off the pot.
Poop or get off the pot.
And here's one more element. This is something I include in everything that I'm doing. It's the power of why, or the power of because, telling people why. So I tell my people why I have a deadline. And I think you should too.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I tell them is I say, this is the one time a year we launch, and it's the one period, it's the one time frame, because we spend the rest of the year supporting our students. And I don't want to, and we have a live component with Business by Design. There's a live teaching component virtually.
Right.
So I'm not going to be diverting my attention. So it's a very logical reason. It's like, I'm not going to be like trying to get more people in and then I'm halfway through the program and half my attention is on delivery. No, it's full focus on one and then the other. But you can even say to people, you can make your reason. The reason we're closing down the doors is so that you will make a decision.
Right.
We want you to make an empowered yes or an empowered no in your life. And if we don't offer a time to which to make that decision, chances are you never will.
Right.
Have you already? No, you're sitting there on the fence, and sitting on the fence is very painful and uncomfortable. And that's how most people live their life,
Yeah.
They don't make decisions about a lot of things. And that's too bad.
Well, what's really interesting about what you guys do with the whole launching 1 year or one time a year thing, because most people don't do that. But I almost see that now as you're talking as part of the deadline.
Yeah.
Because it's putting, what you're talking about is it's putting more pressure on those 4 days to
Well,
make
think about it this
decision.
way. If I make a great offer to you, but it's like, whoa, it's a stretch financially for you. And I say, hey, I need you to make a decision by midnight tonight.
Yeah.
And then what's a common question that people ask? Well, when are you
opening again?
Yeah. And then I say 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Where does your mind go?
Wait. Yeah.
I'll just wait.
Yeah. That's
and then
interesting.
2 weeks come. And then it's the same situation. You're going to probably ask the same question again. You really think anything's changed in those 2 weeks for you?
Right.
Well, when are you launching again? Another 2 weeks. I'll just wait.
Well, I love the pressure cooker metaphor analogy because, or example, I guess, because when you look at it that way, you can just ask yourself, how do I start to structure the offer, the deadline, all of this stuff to get a more pressure put in on them to make that decision?
Yeah. And I don't want to say like as a pressure cooker, like I'm putting pressure on them. Do it. Buy.
Yeah.
Not that type of pressure. I'm saying,
well, no, that's
like
the pressure on making a decision.
It is definitely, there's the pressure to make the decision. But to me, it's like, I would look at the pressure as like the energy. The energy is high. It's intense. It's now. It's big. And imagine a card open phase that's a month long.
Yeah.
How do you keep that? You can't.
You can't. There's no way.
Oh my God. People forget. Every week, it's really interesting. There's this like phenomenon where people kind of reset a lot of their things every week. So it's like they kind of forget what happened last week.
Yeah.
So you have this card open that's like longer than a week. You run the risk of like people kind of forgetting. What was that about again? Right. I don't know. I'm onto a new thing. So that's why shorter is going to be better.
Makes sense. And these concepts can be applied to, we talked about it, like evergreen, automated type of stuff as well. You still want all of these.
Everything you need, if you're asking for money, everything needs to have an irresistible offer and a deadline.
Right.
Every single thing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. These are skills and there's ingredients. So there's things that need to be included, some of which we haven't talked about. It's up to you if you want to keep talking about these things. And if you're not making the sales that you want, it really comes down to a few things. Messaging and offer is like in a dance together.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So bad messaging is going to create a bad offer. And then there's numbers. If no one sees the messaging, no one sees the offer, like don't expect to make a bunch of money and have a bunch of success, but we've had people that nailed their messaging, nailed their offer, and they had a small audience and crushed it.
Yeah.
It's quality.
Well, they are, because the messaging is the thing that creates that internal feeling of I need to have. And
Yes. And I think it's important to note that that need was already there.
yeah,
We're not creating, I think that's a very powerful distinction. When we create a great offer and great messaging, we're not creating a need. We're tapping into the stream of needs that they already have.
yeah,
The deeper desires, core desires that people have are already there. And we're tapping into that. Now we might create a need for our vehicle as the solution, but the needs of the transformation of
Right.
where they want to go are already there. Like, for example, I'm not going to convince somebody to make more money. The people we're attracting already want to,
right.
you know what I mean? And it's like, this is the way in which we can help you make more money, grow your business, whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So this has been amazing, and there's so much. And we can keep talking about all these different elements for hours, probably. Everything from like, well, how do we start to craft that offer? How do we find the value? How do we get people to see the value?
Yeah.
What's right?
There's so much
stuff.
we could talk about.
But you guys have a free training coming
Yeah.
up, which is live
Yeah.
training. So what's going to be inside of that training?
Yeah, one of the big things, I'm very grateful that I've been around now a long time. You have as well. And so in order to do that, we don't build our business off of, and I'm seeing more of this today than ever. This is me getting on my little soapbox again. People are building their businesses off of more tactics and gimmicks.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of building like, card houses or sand castles kind of. It's just, if that gimmick falls away and you know what I mean? Like, oh, something went viral or I got popular here or whatever. And so we operate from principles, and one of these is the offer. And so this is like how to actually run a successful business. This is how to actually do things the right way. And that gives a lot more certainty,
Yeah.
because you're running from unwavering truths. You're focusing on what we know works, principles. And so we look at your business like a machine, almost like a car engine. And it needs certain ingredients, certain gears to work. And so that's what we're going to share. There's 5 that we focus on. These are the big 5. Offer is one of them.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. If everyone's just chasing the one thing, you're always missing something. You want to make a perfect chocolate cake, but you're only looking for the flour, you're only looking for the sugar, but you miss out even one ingredient. Your chocolate cake's going to suck. I don't care how hard you work in the kitchen, how many hours you spend in the kitchen. If you're missing just one ingredient, the cake is not going to turn out like the picture on the box.
Right.
And so we want to give the holistic view, the full ingredient list. And it's not very many, it's 5 ingredients.
What are those ingredients?
Yeah, so it starts with offer.
Yep.
From there, we create your sales system. Your sales system is your launch, right? From sales system, I like to go to attraction. We all need an attraction or audience-based system for continuing to getting new leads.
Yep.
And that's a key distinction. We're not trying to get popular here. We're not just trying to get known. There's a difference between having followers and an audience versus having leads. A lead is somebody who's close to buying your stuff, wants to buy your stuff, has the problem that you solve, interested, and they're close.
Yeah.
So it's a lead attraction system.
A lot of influencers, not a lot of leads.
Right. Making a lot of noise, got a lot of people know you, but doesn't mean they want to work
Right.
with you.
Yeah.
Right. From there, what I wrote, attraction.
Yep.
We go to something called ascension. So ascension is a big conversation about a lot of the stuff behind this, the underneath the surface that people don't really see, that a lot of the money and the profitability in our business has come from what we would call the back end.
Back end?
Yeah, the back end. And what the back end means is you have a real business when you start looking at things like LTV, lifetime customer value,
Right.
getting customers to continue working with you on repeat, creating lifers, if you will. And putting that into place is something that, and looking at that strategically, like they go from this offer as a product path, this offer to this offer to this offer. We've seen that 2 to 3x businesses.
Yeah.
People going around like they're 100 to 300,000, and then they add that ascension plan into
Right.
it, and they'll 2 to 3x you guys have that in place for your business. And then the final big component that, this is like your medicine. This is like your vitamin that no one wants to take.
What is it?
Team.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Right? Like people don't get excited about that. But it's like the missing ingredient. So
you should get excited about that.
Well,
that's the thing that frees you from the business. And
that's the thing is like, I like to say that people start a business because they think it's going to give you freedom.
Yeah.
Business does not give you freedom. Okay. Because we got a lot of people working 14 hours a day and have a business and you don't feel free. You are not free.
Right.
Right. But creating structure and systems in your business can give you access to that freedom.
And it doesn't matter what level you're at too. Like
No.
you could be making $100 a month and have a VA or something.
Well, that's what people say.
Even,
They say, I'm not ready to hire a team. And I say, you're not ready because you haven't hired a team.
right.
And then you're doing the 14-hour days and you're complaining about your business.
They have it backwards. It's
completely backwards.
It's I will hire the team once I have the money. And it's like, no, the team is what makes allows you to make the money.
Cause and effect.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. The team is what's going to cause the growth, but you're waiting for the growth before you can get the team. You have it backwards. Exactly. And the reality is I got my first virtual assistant when I was still living at home and I wasn't making $1. I paid him $70 a week. He was a VA in the Philippines. He's still with us today. His name is Clint. We've employed half his family. They are family to us. I mean, we paid for their wedding. We buy them laptops and gifts and all that type of stuff. Yeah. And we have a whole team of VAs today. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for him because he was able to start taking those $5 an hour activities off of my plate that I was still focusing on. What does that do? That frees you up. And by the way, a funny phenomenon is you start to feel like a real business. Yeah. The moment you have a team member, whoa. So team is as soon as someone else is helping you, even if it's a part-time. And that's the thing. It's a couple of dollars an hour for a virtual assistant. You could start today with $50 a week and start getting things off of your plate. And if you're unwilling to spend $50 a week to invest in your business, I'm just going to say it, you should not be in business. It's not a right time for you.
That's kind of one of the things I talked about a couple of podcasts ago is like, 20 years ago, when you want to start a business, you're going to the bank and you're getting a loan.
Yeah. For your store,
rent and overhead,
inventory,
like the kitchen,
employees.
All of that stuff. Yeah. And it forces you to go all in. And I think with online business, because it's so easy to start a business, everyone's doing it and
which makes it harder.
And they never go all in.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's such a low barrier there.
We just had a case study come in. We read these case studies from our students every Monday on our team meeting. And they just had their first launch and they literally said the words, and I couldn't have done it without my VA. First launch, first thing. Yeah. Stop trying to do it all yourself.
Yeah. So your free training is going to go through all 5 of these elements. Mm-hmm. Okay. Tell me about, is it 3? It's 3 days.
So we're doing, I'm very excited. So first of all, you're going to get to see a launch in action, and we've been doing launches for a very long time. So there's a lot of fun things that we do that you're going to get to see little nuanced things that we do versus like just the big picture. And the beautiful part is we're doing this live. There's a lot of fun things that get to happen when you do your launch live. First of all, it's easier. You know what I mean? It's just like you can go on Facebook Live and boom, put this in a Facebook group and you can get going. So you don't need to be all fancy like a Brandon Lucera production site to do your first or your next launch. Right. So you're going to see that. But it's also you're going to get to see how we make this very interactive and like a dance with our audience because it's live. So normally in the past we've done videos, and the opportunity with the videos is we get to have a lot of fun and creativity with the production value. Yeah. But once it's edited, it's done, it's locked in. And so we've never done it like this, but it gets to be a little bit more flexible and moldable. And the piece I only touched on for a second is when you look at your launch, it's a performance. Yeah. And when your performance is like maybe a stand-up comedian and he's gauging the audience and feeling them and bouncing off of them and kind of tailoring his performance to the audience, it only increases. Right. So you're going to see a lot of that in action, is that we're using your guys' interaction and questions and content or feedback to create and tailor the content to that in many ways. So it's going to be really fun.
What's the title of the training?
Well, everything is around the role that your business needs you to fill, which is the digital CEO. So we call it the rise of the digital CEO.
Okay, cool. And that's coming up June
17th.
June 17th. So for all
Right
of you
around
guys,
the corner.
all of you guys listening, if you guys want to register for that, you can go to brandonlucero.com/digital CEO. And we're going to have a link that you guys can use to just opt in. And I'm assuming after they opt in, you guys have a Facebook page community going on along with this as well.
We're gonna have a Facebook group pop up just for everyone participating in that, where my team and I are in there. We actually have like coaches supporting people along the way. Like there's a lot, you're gonna see a lot of what we talked about, like the value in the ahas, the realizations, what we call the mic drop moments.
Yeah.
As you go through that, and we want to help you figure out what it is that you're selling.
Yeah.
We want to help you figure out the best way for you to be selling it, and how to start putting that out there. There's a lot of people that get stuck in those first few phases of like, I don't know my niche, I don't know what to sell, and we want to get you past that. And we do that in this series really fast.
Amazing. Cool. So for everyone listening, if you guys want to learn those 5 elements, if you want to dive a little bit deeper into what we were able to talk about today and start putting a lot of these pieces together, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out. It doesn't matter if you haven't made your first sale. It doesn't matter if you're at $100,000, 6 figures or more. All 5 of these elements, I can tell you right now, if you're stuck, you're plateaued, and you've been plateaued for more than 2 months, you're likely missing one of the 5 elements that James is going to break down for you inside of this live series. So make sure you guys go to brandonlucero.com/digital CEO and register today. James, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, buddy. I appreciate you.
Yeah. And for all of you listeners, if you guys have not registered yet, go do that again. We will have the link in the show notes. It's brandonlucero.com/digital CEO. And I'm going to be around there too. So we'll be having more podcast episodes, content going on alongside his training to help you guys as well. So pay attention to that. And I'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.